With Christmas quickly approaching, of course, this is a wonderful time, a season filled with all sorts of special gatherings with loved ones. And in that process, many of us will be interacting with some non-Christian friends and family members. And, some of those conversations about the true reason for Christmas can potentially be popping up. And so we want to help talk about that discussion regarding how do you share the gospel with loved ones who may not yet have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Well, that's the topic of today's Standing Together segment, which is a time where we highlight other organizations who share our commitment to advance the kingdom of God by championing faith, family, and freedom. And this week, we want to highlight the important kingdom work of our good friends over at Evangelism Explosion. And joining me now for this conversation is Dr. John Sorensen. He's the president of Evangelism Explosion. He's also the host of Share Life Today. Dr. Sorensen, welcome back to Washington Watch. Always great to have you, my friend.
Well, Jody, thank you so much, and Merry Christmas. It's a great week to talk about Jesus.
It sure is. And I was so glad to have you on to share about this, because many of us are going to be with family and friends, many of whom don't have a relationship with Christ. So what advice would you give to us right now? How do you share the gospel with loved ones who may not know Christ?
Yeah, sure. And, we train people to witness all over the world all the time, but mostly we do that with strangers. And the reason is because it's easier. It's a daunting task to think about witnessing to a family member or to a friend. And certainly what we don't want to do is cause offense that would break the relationship somehow and cause the holiday to be less than what you had hoped it to be. But as far as advice goes, here's what I'd say. First and foremost, pray. And I think we know that, but at the same time, I think we need to be reminded. And I would urge you to pray expectantly. I would say, Lord, please, I'm going to step into this. I'm going to do it, but I'm asking you to make it efficient, effective. Because at the end of the day, we know salvation is from the Lord. It is not anything anyone else can manufacture. The second thing I would say is, just as a typical rule, the reason why God gave us a testimony is because it is our testimony that causes us to be able to get into spiritual conversations in the most winsome way. And kind of unlike what we were just talking about a minute ago, what we're urging you to do is ask for permission and to do this in a real personal one-on-one way. Certainly don't do this in a great big group, and don't let it become a shouting match by any stretch. Instead, ask for permission and then share something personal yourself. And, here's the thing, the Lord is doing all kinds of things in our life all the time. And I think that we need to begin to notice those things and then to be ready to share. And so I have several family members who are not yet believers in Jesus. And, so all the time I'm thinking about stories. Yesterday I was reading in Isaiah 41 about God strengthening us. And so I began to start to make some notes about some ways in which I really can testify that the Lord has strengthened me. And so when I get together with these family, that's one of the things I just bring into the conversation. And, maybe they roll their eyes, or they have in the past or whatnot, but I'm constantly bringing up the fact that God is real in my life and that he's actually doing something in my life today. So I'd urge you to think about the testimony that God's given you and to begin to record some things that you can share. And all the while you're proving that God is real, that he's vital, that he's somebody that you have a personal relationship with. Now I'm going to give you one more thought that you could, two more, but one more that you can bring into the conversation. And here it is. We just did a pretty massive study, and here's what we found. 66% of Americans are open to having a spiritual conversation with a family member or a friend. That's the truth about America today. And so here's an idea. You can simply say, I was watching this show and this crazy guy came on and he said that almost 7 out of 10 Americans want to have a spiritual conversation. And so, as your friend, as your family member, how tragic it would be if I didn't offer that to you. And so, if you're one of those 7, would you tell me? And then I'll gladly have that conversation with you. And what you're going to find is more than half of your family and friends really have been having thoughts in their head where they'd really like to have a spiritual conversation. And so perhaps this is the year, and perhaps you're the person that's going to lead that conversation to happen. And then I'm going to give you one more thought that you might be able to use this Christmas. Say you do have a son or a daughter or a very close family member that clearly knows what you believe, and they've been around the church perhaps their entire life, and yet they're not yet a believer in Jesus. One thing you could do is you could ask that son or daughter or family member for the greatest gift that they could ever give you, which would be the opportunity, the privilege of sharing with you the greatest thing. Simply couch it this way. Say, you know, if it ever came that we were separated and there was not the opportunity for me to share with you ever again, in my mind, it would be one of the great tragedies of my life that I didn't have a chance to share with you something. If you want to give me a gift this Christmas, the best gift that you could ever give, it would simply be to let me share with you this truth that is so important to me, that has so changed my life. And what you're going to find, I shared this with a lady at church a few weeks ago, and she had the chance to do this with a son, and the son listened for 35 minutes to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And you know,
awesome.
So there are opportunities. We just have to pray for them first and then expectantly step into them, Jody.
Where can people find out more information about Evangelism Explosion?
Well, as far as sharing your faith, you can go to sharelife.today. That's probably the quickest way. We have tools and tips and resources we put up there all the time to help people share the gospel. If you want to know about Evangelism Explosion, go to evangelismexplosion.org, and we'll offer help. We do training all over the world in how to share the gospel.
Dr. John Sorensen, president of Evangelism Explosion, Merry Christmas to you. Thank you for this fantastic advice. God bless you.